You scroll for hours every day through posts, reels, and endless noise. But when was the last time you read something that actually changed you? Something that didn't just fill your mind, but expanded it. The truth is, reading isn't just a habit. It's a hidden superpower we've quietly forgotten. A single book has the power to shift your entire perspective, to make you feel things you didn't know words could make you feel. Yet most people treat it like a chore, something outdated, something for school. But if you only knew what really happens when you read, you'd never see it the same way again. Because when you open a book, you're not just reading, you're time traveling. You're stepping into the mind of someone who lived, dreamed, and thought differently. You're borrowing their wisdom, their imagination, their courage, and slowly their words start shaping the way you think, speak, and see the world. No app, no video, no scroll can do that. Reading trains your focus, stretches your attention span, and gives your brain the kind of workout no dopamine hit ever could. It's like unlocking a secret room inside your own mind, one filled with endless doors, each leading to a different world. And the best part, every world you visit leaves something behind in you. So maybe the real reason we feel lost, distracted, and disconnected isn't because we're too busy. It's because we've stopped listening to stories that once made us human. Reading isn't just pleasure, it's power. And if you've been looking for a way to change your life, maybe it starts, quietly, with a single page. The forgotten joy of reading. There was a time when getting lost in a book felt like stepping through a secret doorway, when stories weren't just words on paper, but entire worlds waiting to be discovered. You could sit by a window, open a page, and suddenly be running through forests, sailing across oceans, or falling in love with characters who felt more real than people you actually knew. Reading was more than a pastime. It was an escape, an adventure, and a quiet kind of magic that could turn an ordinary afternoon into something unforgettable. But somewhere along the way, we traded that magic for speed. We swapped pages for screens, stories for short clips, and silence for constant noise. Now we scroll endlessly, our thumbs moving faster than our minds, searching for something that will hold our attention, but nothing really does for long. We've built a world where distraction feels easier than depth, and where a 30-second video can replace hours of reflection. The problem is, that kind of consumption doesn't feed the soul. It drains it. Reading used to be a slow, sacred act. It taught us to sit with our thoughts, to imagine, to feel, and to understand. It wasn't just about information, it was about immersion. You didn't just read a story, you lived it. You felt the heartbreak, the triumph, the wonder. It shaped your inner world in ways social media never could. And when you closed the book, you weren't the same person you were when you opened it. Now many people say they don't have time to read, but what they really mean is they've forgotten how to be still. They've forgotten how it feels to be fully absorbed in a story, to turn off the world for a while and turn inward. Reading asks for your attention, but in return it gives you clarity, peace, and imagination. Maybe it's time to return to that forgotten joy, to remember what it feels like to be transported by words, to find parts of yourself hidden between sentences. Because no scroll, no trend, no feed can give you what a single good book can, the feeling of truly being alive inside your own mind. Books as time machines. A book is more than paper and ink. It's a time machine disguised as a story. The moment you open one, you're no longer limited by your own life or your own time. You can walk through ancient cities, breathe the air of forgotten worlds, and listen to the voices of people who lived hundreds, even thousands of years ago. You can stand beside kings, warriors, dreamers and outcasts, not as a spectator, but as someone living their moments with them. That's the quiet magic of reading. It doesn't just tell you what happened, it lets you be there. Through books you can live 100 different lives, without ever leaving your chair. You can feel the chill of the Arctic with explorers, who risked everything, the heat of the desert under the boots of travelers, chasing lost civilizations, or the heartbreak of a poet, who wrote by candlelight centuries before you were born. Each story becomes a bridge between your world and theirs, and somehow their thoughts begin to echo inside your own mind. No movie or documentary can give you that intimacy. Reading pulls you into the heartbeat of history, into the raw emotions, fears and hopes of people who are long gone. It teaches you empathy in a way nothing else can. You begin to understand that human struggles, dreams and desires haven't really changed much at all. The faces are different, the times are different, but the souls, they're the same. When you read, you don't just consume words. You inherit wisdom. You experience centuries of human thought, culture and emotion in a single lifetime. That's how readers quietly become wiser, not because they've lived longer, but because they've lived more. So when you hold a book, remember what you're really holding: a portal, a doorway to 1,000 worlds, waiting for you to step through. You don't need a plane ticket, or time travel, or endless screens to see the universe. You just need the courage to open a page, and let it take you somewhere you've never been. The mental power behind every page. Every time you read, something incredible happens inside your brain, something no screen or scroll can replicate. The act of reading lights up multiple parts of your mind at once. It activates imagination, focus, memory, and emotion, all working together to turn simple words into living experiences. You don't just see the story, your brain begins to feel it, hear it, and live it. That's why a well-written line can make you laugh, cry or pause to think about your own life. Reading literally rewires your brain to become more alive. When you dive into a book, your focus starts sharpening. Unlike social media, where your attention jumps from one post to another, reading forces you to slow down, concentrate, and stay present. You learn to silence distractions and hold a single thread of thought. Over time, this deep focus spills into the rest of your life. You start thinking clearer, remembering more, and reacting less. But the real magic of reading goes even deeper. Every story you read trains your empathy. When you step into the mind of a character, feeling their fears, hopes and heartbreaks, your brain practices understanding people in the real world. You start noticing emotions you used to overlook, seeing from perspectives you'd never considered. Reading in that way softens you. It teaches compassion without ever preaching it. And then there's imagination, the ultimate mental playground. As you visualize scenes, faces and places described in words, your mind learns to create vivid worlds from nothing. That same imagination fuels creativity, problem solving, and even emotional intelligence, because it helps you think beyond what's visible. So every page you turn is more than a moment of entertainment. It's brain training in disguise. Reading builds mental muscles, patience, understanding, focus and insight. It shapes not just how you think, but who you become. The more you read, the more powerful your mind grows, quietly, steadily and deeply. And maybe that's the greatest gift of all, the power to think, feel and imagine at a level that screens could never reach. The pleasure of solitude. There's a rare kind of peace that comes from sitting alone with a book. The kind of silence that doesn't feel empty but full. In a world that never stops talking, where every second is filled with noise, messages and movement, reading becomes a quiet rebellion. It's a way of saying, for now I choose stillness. When you open a book, you step into a space where it's just you and the words. No notifications, no demands, no performance, just thought, mind meeting mind. Being alone with a book isn't loneliness. It's connection at its purest form. It's you having a conversation with the deepest parts of yourself, the parts you forget to listen to in the chaos of daily life. As the world fades into the background, your focus deepens, your breathing slows, and something inside you begins to relax. You stop needing to keep up with anyone, and you remember what it feels like to simply be. In that solitude, you discover the quiet joy of companionship that doesn't drain you. The characters become your company, the author your silent guide. You start to see reflections of your own fears and dreams woven into the pages, and in that recognition, you realize you were never truly alone at all. Reading turns solitude into sanctuary, a place where you can heal, recharge, and rediscover yourself. The beauty of this kind of solitude is that it gives you back ownership of your attention. You no longer exist to respond, to post, or to prove. You just exist, fully, peacefully, and presently. And when you close the book, you carry that calm with you, like a soft echo that lingers long after the story ends. In a world terrified of silence, readers are the brave ones, the ones who dare to be alone, to think deeply, and to feel without distraction. Because sometimes the most powerful connection you can have isn't with the world outside, but with a quiet universe inside your own mind. And reading is the doorway that takes you there every single time. Books versus digital distractions. We live in a time where attention is the most valuable currency, and everyone is trying to steal yours. Every swipe, every notification, every trending sound is designed to keep you hooked for just a few more seconds. It feels harmless, even entertaining, but what it's really doing is training your mind to crave constant stimulation. You get tiny bursts of dopamine, those quick hits of satisfaction that vanish just as fast as they come, and before you know it, hours are gone, and your brain feels tired but empty. Books, on the other hand, ask for something different. They ask for stillness. They don't beg for your attention with flashing colors or loud sounds. They invite you to slow down, to breathe, to focus. Reading doesn't reward you instantly. It rewards you deeply. It doesn't give you a quick thrill. It gives you lasting peace. That's why so many people say they can't concentrate on reading anymore. Their minds have forgotten how to be quiet. But when you push past that initial restlessness and truly sink into a book, something shifts. The noise fades. The constant need for stimulation starts to soften. You begin to rediscover patience, the kind that makes space for thought, reflection, and imagination. You start to realize how much your brain was craving this kind of calm all along. Screens make you consume endlessly. Books make you reflect. One keeps you scrolling, the other keeps you growing. One scatters your thoughts, the other gathers them. Reading builds inner strength, the strength to focus, to imagine without visuals, to be comfortable with silence. It's not about escaping the digital world, but about remembering that your mind deserves more than shallow noise. So the next time you reach for your phone out of habit, pause for a moment, ask yourself, when was the last time I fed my mind something meaningful? Because every time you choose a book over a screen, you're choosing depth over distraction, peace over noise, and power over dependency. And in a world addicted to chaos, that's not just refreshing, it's revolutionary. The emotional healing power of words. There's something quietly miraculous about how words can heal. A book doesn't speak directly to you, yet somehow it understands you. You can open a story written decades ago by someone you've never met and still feel as if the author reached across time to touch the deepest part of your soul. That's the magic of reading. it gives shape to emotions you didn't know how to name, and suddenly, the pain you've been carrying doesn't feel so heavy anymore. When life gets overwhelming, a book becomes a refuge. Between its pages you find characters who felt what you feel, the loss, the confusion, the hope, the rebuilding. Seeing your pain reflected in someone else's story reminds you that you're not alone. It helps you make sense of what once felt meaningless. Every chapter, every sentence, is like a mirror that turns chaos into clarity and heartbreak into understanding. Reading heals because it gives you perspective. It lets you step outside your own world for a while and see your problems through someone else's eyes. It shows you that struggle is universal, that everyone breaks but everyone also rebuilds. You start to recognize that healing doesn't come from avoiding pain, it comes from feeling it, from understanding it, from realizing it's a part of being human. Some books don't just tell stories, they whisper truths. They remind you that even in the darkest moments, there is still beauty, still light, still a reason to turn the page. And sometimes, that's all you need, a reminder that your story isn't over yet. The right book, at the right moment can do what therapy, advice, or comfort sometimes can't. It helps you hear your own heart again. It teaches you to find meaning in the mess, strength in the sorrow, and hope in the hurt. Because words, when read deeply, don't just stay on the page, they start to live inside you, softly rewriting your pain into purpose, and that is a quiet, powerful healing only reading can give. The confidence that comes from knowledge. There's a special kind of confidence that comes from truly understanding the world, not the fake confidence of loud opinions or viral quotes, but the quiet strength that comes from knowing, and reading is the most timeless way to build that strength. Every book you open adds another layer to your mind. New ideas, new perspectives, new truths. Slowly you stop being someone who's easily swayed by noise, and you start becoming someone who can think for yourself. That's real power. Knowledge doesn't make you arrogant, it makes you steady. It gives you the ability to see beyond surface level arguments, to question what's being said instead of blindly believing it. In a world full of manipulation and misinformation, readers are harder to deceive, because they've trained their minds to think critically, to connect dots, to recognize patterns. The more you read, the sharper your mind becomes. You stop reacting impulsively, and start responding intelligently. But knowledge also shapes how you carry yourself. When you read, you gather words, not just facts. You learn how to express yourself clearly, confidently, and calmly. You no longer struggle to explain what you feel or think, you have the language to do it, and when you can articulate your thoughts, you automatically stand taller. You don't need to shout to be heard, your presence does the talking. Reading also grounds you. It reminds you that the world is vast, that there's always more to learn, and that wisdom often lives in humility. The smartest people are never the loud. They're the ones who keep reading, questioning, and growing. That quiet curiosity is what keeps their minds alive. So when you see someone calm in chaos, steady in debate, and thoughtful in silence, chances are they're a reader, because books don't just fill your mind, they strengthen your character. They give you a sense of certainty that no one can take away, the kind that doesn't come from ego, but from understanding. And that's the real confidence reading gives you, not the need to prove yourself, but the peace of already knowing who you are. Books as conversations with the greatest minds. Every time you open a book, you're entering into a conversation, not with someone ordinary, but with some of the greatest minds to ever walk the earth. Think about it. When you read, you're not just absorbing words, you're sitting across from thinkers, rebels, and dreamers, who poured their life's lessons, pain, and discoveries onto the page. You get to listen to people who lived centuries before you, who questioned the same things you do now, and who found answers in ways you never imagined. It's like having access to an invisible council of mentors, available anytime you're willing to listen. When you read the words of a philosopher, you're walking beside them as they wrestle with meaning and truth. When you read a poet, you're feeling the world through their heart. When you read a visionary, you're seeing the world through their imagination. Every sentence carries their energy, their spirit, their humanity, and the deeper you read, the more their thoughts start blending with your own, until their wisdom becomes part of who you are. Books collapse the distance between past and present. You don't need to have lived in ancient Greece to understand Socrates. You don't need to have known Maya Angelou to feel her courage. You don't need to meet Steve Jobs to learn his vision. They've already left their minds open for you. All you have to do is open the book, and that's what makes reading such a rare privilege. You can live in a small town, work a simple job, and still hold conversations with geniuses who shaped civilizations. That kind of access is something no algorithm, no influencer, no trend can offer. It's timeless, personal and transformative. When you read, you're not alone. You're surrounded by minds that challenge you, inspire you, and push you to think bigger. Their voices echo in your thoughts long after you close the book, guiding you quietly, like mentors who want nothing in return, except for you to grow. And maybe that's the greatest gift of all, knowing that every book you open is an invitation to sit down with greatness, and let it change the way you see the world forever. How reading changes identity. Every book you read leaves a fingerprint on your soul. You might not notice it right away, but with every story, every idea, every truth you encounter, something inside you shifts, quietly, permanently. That's the hidden beauty of reading. It doesn't just fill your mind, it transforms it. Each book becomes a mirror, reflecting a version of yourself you didn't know existed. You start seeing the world differently, thinking differently, even feeling differently, because your inner world is constantly evolving with every page you turn. Books don't just give you information, they give you perspective. They challenge your beliefs, test your limits, and open you to worlds beyond your own. You might start a book as one person, and finish it as someone entirely new. A sentence might linger in your mind for days. A story might change the way you see love or loss, and an idea might completely rewrite the direction of your life. Reading is transformation disguised as leisure. When you read deeply, you begin to piece together a version of yourself, made from the fragments of every author, every character, every thought that's ever moved you. You become a mosaic of wisdom, imagination and empathy. The courage of one character becomes your courage. The clarity of one thinker becomes your own. Slowly the stories you consume begin shaping the story you live. And here's the most powerful part. Reading helps you evolve toward your highest self. It teaches you patience, awareness, and humility. It reminds you that growth is constant, and that identity isn't fixed. It's a work in progress, read every day, through the knowledge you seek. People often say, you are what you eat. But maybe it's truer to say, you are what you read, because the ideas you feed your mind determine the kind of person you become. So when you choose powerful books, meaningful stories, and deep truths, you're choosing the person you'll be tomorrow. Every page is a small act of becoming, a quiet evolution, and with time, those pages turn you into someone stronger, wiser, and more in tune with who you were always meant to be. Reclaiming the habit, one page at a time. Most people think reading requires hours of silence, a perfect setting, and a pile of motivation, but the truth is, it only takes one small decision to open a book. You don't need to finish a chapter or conquer a novel in a week. Just one page, one paragraph, one moment of stillness is enough to begin, because every big transformation in life starts small, and big is no different. Imagine this: instead of reaching for your phone first thing in the morning, you read a single page, 5 minutes, that's it. Over time, those minutes stack up, and so does the change. Your thoughts start to sharpen, your emotions start to settle. You begin noticing how reading slows you down, just enough to hear yourself think again. That's the quiet power of small habits. They look harmless, but they reshape your mind in ways you won't realize until much later. 5 pages a day might not sound like much but it's a seed, and seeds grow. 1 page becomes 5, 5 become 20, and before you know it, reading isn't a task anymore, it's a part of who you are. The key isn't speed or volume, it's consistency. It's showing up for yourself in that quiet space again and again until the habit feels as natural as breathing. And here's what's beautiful. Reading doesn't demand perfection. You don't need to finish a book in one sitting or understand every word. Some days you read one sentence that stays with you. Other days you find yourself lost in chapters without noticing time passing. Both count. Both matter. So if you've been meaning to read, but keep putting it off, start now, with whatever book speaks to you. Keep it by your bedside, in your bag, or on your desk. Read in small pockets of time, not just in grand moments, because the truth is, reading doesn't change you all at once, it changes you slowly, quietly, 1 page at a time, and before you realize, you look back and see how those tiny moments of reading didn't just change your days, they change your entire way of seeing the world. Every page you turn is a step toward a stronger, wiser version of you. Every story you finish, every idea you wrestle with, every sentence that stays with you, they all build you, quietly, the inside out. Reading doesn't shout for attention, it whispers transformation. It doesn't demand that you change, it gently guides you toward. That's the beauty of you go without realizing it's happening, and one day, you look back and realize that every book you picked up was really just another version of you waiting to be discovered. Books have a way of waking up parts of us we didn't even know were asleep. They make us question, dream and feel more deeply. They remind us that wisdom isn't found in noise, but in reflection, in the still moments where words meet thought and turn into understanding. And the truth is, you don't have to be a scholar or a bookworm to feel that power. You just have to start, to let one book pull you in and remind you how alive your mind can really be. So here's a question for you. What's the one book that changed your life? The one that opened your eyes, broke your heart, or made you see the world different? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know, because sharing those stories might inspire someone else's journey too. And if you want more videos that reawaken your mind and help you grow into the best version of yourself, hit that subscribe button, because the next one might just open a whole new chapter in your life.